I love it. I love it. Chill bump time. Great cutscene. Great pause. 2. I repeat, 2 scarabs. Best playable ending to a video game ever. I absolutely love it. I've got him in this corner and oh, yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's real fair. Invincible. Yeah. Oh, great. Now I'm stuck. This is just wonderful. Oh, and of course.
The will of the gods.
Here we go. Oh, come on! I hate Halo 3. So, the question is, do I love or hate Mission 8, Cortana? Hello everybody, this is JP3 here, bringing you another entry in our Halo 3 Love or Hate Legendary playthrough. We are on mission number 8, Cortana. The dreaded Cortana. The ingrown toenail, if you will, of the Halo 3 campaign. Now you're probably expecting, if you've watched any of, especially the early videos, but a lot of my videos for Halo 3, you're probably expecting me to tell you that I hate this level because everybody hates it and everybody thinks it's like the most difficult level in the campaign or maybe even in the entire franchise. Bogus, I say to both. I don't hate this level. I don't hate this level at all, actually. In fact, I think this level, much like the library, does a great job of mixing up, I guess, what you would typically face in a Halo game. There's no level that's quite like this one in the campaign, and I like it for that. Now, are there elements of this level that I dislike? Well, sure. Of course there are. There's always going to be... I don't know anyone that would say this is their favorite level or a perfect level, but... yeah, so we'll get to those as we go along here. Starting out, as you can see, the way you take this initial part is really totally up to you. It's not particularly hard. The enemies will not pick up weapons, which is something to mention. Upstairs, or, well, on the second level of this little room here, this initial kind of aperitif, amuse-bouche, if you will, for the level Cortana, beside these elite combat forms are weapons. The developers decided, I'm assuming, that they did not want in this first room for these enemies to be able to pick up plasma rifles, and there's a carbine over there, and so on and so forth. If they revive, they consume the weapon. So if they're by a weapon and revive, especially upstairs, they consume the weapon instead of actually picking it up or just leaving it on the ground. So if you really want to come into this next room with those plasma rifles especially, or the carbine, then you definitely want to make sure and go up and grab it ASAP. Sometimes you can get a kill there during the these cutscenes, which I don't know, they're more like kind of like a quick time event, if you will. But anyway, we'll get to talking about those in a little bit. I kind of missed that grenade toss, but it works for me anyway. This is one of like the top 3 toughest parts of this level, in my opinion, because we get a couple of nasty groups that just kind of it almost reminds me so much of the first floor in the library, where you have a lot more of these kind of trolley. A lot more of the trolley, jump down, jump scare type sections early in the level, and then late in the level, when you're well armed, it's not so much about trolling you, it is about trying to overwhelm you. And I can't tell you the difference right off the top of the head. You know, in general, I don't know what the difference is between trolling you and inundating you, or overwhelming you, but there seems to be a difference to me. So yeah, here I go ahead and use the sticky grenades or the fire bombs to get rid of those guys. It always feels like a waste because those can be really valuable against enemies that are charging you right now, and of course those guys aren't. But the issue is you know, trying to kind of move forward and move fast and not let these guys release their oh crap. I forgot to select the firebomb that I just went back and picked up. And so, yeah. Anyway, Not a good idea to let these infection forms roam free because you can only do so much breaking up of bodies. In Halo 3, as we talked about, unlike any of the previous Halos, the infection forms can infect just pure dead bodies. Whereas in Halo 1, they can't do that at all. And in Halo 2, they can only infect former combat form, sorry. So this group here can include a dude with a rocket launcher. I don't really know if that strategy is going to help you. It depends on, I guess, the twitchiness of the guy. The guy with the rocket can also be over to, right now it would be kind of more straight in front of us, but we're actually getting really fortunate here and getting these guys to come down a lot faster, which is really nice. We don't have to worry about them being ranged forms if we decide to book it out of here. Kind of sort of like we're doing now with this one-hit kill Sword Elite with the kick-ass shield chasing us. But this is why I brought the assault rifle, so I could, at distance, whittle down shields or take down an enemy entirely if need be. But it kind of serves that purpose. It's the only time in the level where I use it. I generally like this loadout, the one you're seeing right now. Dual-wielding plasma rifles and a sword in my back pocket, or vice versa, if the situation calls for it. The sword is excellent at killing pure forms, and does a pretty decent job against all other enemies, except for the, I talked about this in Floodgate, the kind of super flood. Every once in a while you get a brute or a human that just seems invulnerable to damage or seemingly able to take a lot of damage. This is most obvious with what I call the super shield elites. There's elite combat forms that have no shields. They're easy, you know, they're one-hit kills with the sword, usually with melee attacks, so on and so forth, even on Legendary. Then there's the shielded elites, which you have to take down their shield with a plasma weapon or just with sustained damage in some other form. And then there's the super shield elites, which can take, like, all the damage in the world. So, anyway, well, I'll try to tell you when we come across those, but you probably know what I'm talking about. They're unmarked, and it's really kind of a crappy thing from the get-go, but from them being unmarked makes it even worse. And their relevance or their presence, why they are the way they are, I'm not really sure. It almost feels glitchy in a way, but anyway. There is a flamethrower over there by the Pelican. I don't like to use the flamethrower because I find myself seemingly much more likely to hurt myself with it than I am to actually kill the enemies. And all it takes is one time for you to hurt yourself with that thing on Legendary, and it's likely going to be over. So I just usually kind of hang around with the sword. This works remarkably consistently, even when you feel like you're being surrounded by those guys. It's pretty amazing how that works out. It seems like they should have the jump on you, and then they don't. And then one will hit you, and then the other ones will kind of scatter. It's very strange, so I just use the sword, which kills them all in one shot, especially as they're coming toward me. One other negative about using the flamethrower is that it is possible that if you put that thing down, because sometimes you will need to put it down, it's possible if you put it down that an enemy will pick it up. If a combat form revives next to it, they will pick it up and use it. It's very rare, but it's just another knock against it, at least for me using it. I'd say the main way I've hurt myself with that is by blasting or lighting up, I guess would be the right word, lighting up one of the pure forms and then it running at me and setting me on fire. It limits your mobility in the direction you've placed the fire, blah 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 blah. Use what you like, though. Most people like the flamethrower, and it's a really good weapon against the pure forms, especially. I like to go ahead and put down that loadout I was telling you about and pick up a needler. There was more ammunition back there, I think. I may have left behind. I'm not really sure. I might be wrong about that, but either way, pick up a needler and then bring the rocket launcher. We're going to use that to take out the pure ranged forms that we're going to be dealing with in a little bit. I hate those ranged forms. They can shoot you from entirely too far a distance, and they will wear you out very fast on Legendary difficulty. They really turn the game into, or turn some of these sections into just very unfun, stay in cover the whole time type affairs. So for this room here, what I like to do is I like to throw down the needler and then run over, grab some spike grenades and plasma grenades, and then as these guys are reviving, just take them out with this brute shot here, just to conserve the ammo for the much more specialized weapons that we took with us in here. Sometimes I forget that the brute shot does not have lunge, and I sometimes also forget about the splash damage, popping these bubbles, but it really is not important and doesn't matter. The infection forms can hurt you a lot more in Halo 3 than they could in Halo 1. Probably about the same as they could in Halo 2, except for there's a lot more of them. So, anyway. So we're just going through all these guys as far as I know and can ever remember. None of them have shields. And none of them are the quote-unquote super flood that I've referred to. Those mythical creatures. Now, we run into a problem here. The infection forms that I burst probably make it up here. Look at the sword. I don't know if you saw it, but now look at it now. It's completely gone. It consumed that sword. Again, this is another section. I think it's the last of its kind. I'm not really sure, but it's another section where these enemies, when they revive, they won't actually pick up that badass weapon, but it's consumed nonetheless. Like, they're not scripted to be able to use those weapons. So I can't find this sword. I can't find this sword. And I can't find that gravity hammer. It literally took away all the best weapons. I usually drop the gravity hammer down here, and then I pick up that sword. Or no, I'll drop a sword down here, but guess what? I'll go ahead and relieve you of any tension. That one gets consumed as well. So, and I've never dealt with it be that bad of luck before. And so here's what I would tell you to do, as we get in some trouble there. Here's what I tell you to do. Pick up that sword, any sword, pick it up as soon as possible, especially if you have infection forms in the area, and drop it somewhere else. Just drop it away from that body, and that's the best way to deal with that. And we're going to use the rocket launcher here for the ranged forms, also the needler for the ranged forms, just the ones that are a bit closer. If we can, we're going to try to use grenade sticks. Because the pure forms won't dodge them while they're in their ranged state, but that elite right there with the needler, he will dodge it, which is sick, disgusting stuff. I really liked when the Flood were much more distinct, much more reckless, much more, much less concerned with their well-being. Notice how this one's jumping away like a piece of crap. Again, more like fighting an elite or a brute than it is like fighting a Flood combat form. Now that's just a shielded form. We're not dealing with a super guy there. That's just what happens. There we go. Curveball that in there, but oops. So let's go get our sword, which is no longer there. So now we're using the carbine, which is my least favorite weapon to use in this particular part, but it can get the job done. The problem with the carbine is that while it can take out non-shielded foes with headshots, it of course does nothing to break up their bodies. He revived right below me. And so they can just revive, just as quickly as they died. And the issue with that, of course, is that especially in Halo 3, when they revive, they can pick up weapons, which they could not do when they revived in Halo 1, when they would just pop up and revive, or Halo 2, when they would revive from actual infection forms. They will pick up weapons if they're next to them, and if they had shields, they'll retain those shields will be fully recharged. So anyway. So I think we've done a pretty good job of taking care of a lot of things here, but the problem is that we don't have a sword, which is highly unusual for me in this part. This, of course, does not go as planned as a result, but it doesn't actually, nothing really goes wrong here either, so, oh god. A rocket and a grenade, so I guess we'll just punch you. And of course, if you forgot, up until Halo 3, with Halos 1 and 2, the last thing you would want to do, besides maybe, the last thing you want to do is actually melee these guys. They were completely resistant to melee. It is the exact opposite in Halo 3. In Halo 3, they are completely vulnerable to melee, and outside of having a shield, it works really well against combat forms. It works decently well against pure forms, especially when they aren't in their, I still haven't looked that up, their homunculus state. this state here. Notice there, he almost kills us there. He has an extremely powerful melee attack that if he actually lands it fully, then we will go down, and we will go down fast. So I'm just going to grab some needler ammunition here and then grab this gravity hammer, because since we don't have a sword, this is the next best thing. But it does not have the same effect as you can see there. The sword's a one-shot kill no matter what. The gravity hammer, not so much. Even just, you know, using its full attack, much less its just, you know, typical regular melee here. So anyway, not really great to have infection forms in this room, so I wasted just a smidge of needler there to get rid of them. Don't need them reviving those elite bodies. If these guys will just smash into my shields, that would be great. Now we need to go into this other room and take care of these two carrier forms and then the pure form. We have to do that if we want that. If we want this area to stop sending little infection forms into that other room, and we don't want infection forms going into that room. Again, you can only be you can't ever be 100% certain that you've gotten all of the combat forms, and of course they can revive dead bodies, which you can't break up. So we kind of make a mistake here and start a little bit of a chain here. I was using the gravity hammer just to get rid of these infection forms quickly. It's actually not a terrible idea to pop some of these bubbles, because unlike this group, which are, you know, I think mostly unshielded, and then of course we're dealing with the pure forms, the group that comes into this arena, when you get past an invisible line about halfway through this room, I believe it's called Hell's Hallway, then you'll get a really, really nasty group. I was trying to pick up a sword there, and of course I picked up that stupid deployable cover, because for some reason this game found it appropriate to prioritize the equipment over the weapons whenever one is next to the other. I have no idea why that choice was made at all. Alright, let's see if we can stick this guy. We can't. I think we, I don't remember if we were, you know, did a pretty good job with sticks here. I don't even understand how that works. He was transforming into a ranged form and then suddenly stopped and became a stalker really fast. That was kind of odd. Or maybe I just misviewed that. Alright, so we got a ranged form right where we want it, except for at this very second we don't want it where it's at. But it is within distance to be able to stick fairly easily, which saves us needler. Now don't get me wrong, saving needler is not a massively important thing to do here. There is a nice amount of needler ammunition back here, which we're actually going to go and get. The best way to describe how to beat this level deathlessly, or if you're struggling with beating it at all, is to take your time, make sure you understand where the ammunition and the weapons are, and only proceed when you're comfortable. Now, obviously, if you're having trouble, it's possible you don't know when to be comfortable or to feel comfortable, but it's best just to take your time and use the plethora of weapons that appear in this level. That is my favorite thing about the level Cortana, is you've got the entire sandbox available to you here. And so it's a matter of really understanding how to use it, and of course where these weapons are at. And of course it's also important to understand what I mentioned earlier about the flood in those early portions consuming those weapons that are next to them if you let them revive. And the best way to stop them from reviving, of course, is to not let infection forms get near them, because those are bodies that are dead bodies. They're not dead infection forms or currently incapacitated infection forms. They're dead bodies that you can't break up with melee or the sword. Alright, so that pure form obviously popped an infection bubble, and that scream signifies this really nasty group that we got the gravity hammer for. So if you put it down, don't forget where it's at. You're going to want it for these people. This is a lot of shielded elites and nasty brutes. Now, uh-oh, we're kind of struggling here. There we go. So the reason I'm being pretty willy-nilly with the gravity hammer here is because, first of all, I'm really impatient with all these infection forms. And I hate the fact that you can't really shoot them or melee them in the same way you could in Combat Evolved. That was something that kind of changed with Halo 2, but either way. But, you know, one thing that I should mention here is that... Oh, crap. This is a pretty hairy part, and the main reason it's hairy is because we don't have a lot of gravity hammer left, and we should have had 2 gravity hammers, simply put, and since we only have the one, I shouldn't have been using it quite as recklessly as I was just then. You know, sometimes strats you forget to adapt, because I don't usually die there at all, or even get close to dying there. May get my shield stripped every once in a while, but not too much worse than that. But of course, as we talked about earlier, that second gravity hammer got consumed. So hopefully you'll remember that. It's not usually a big factor, but it was here for whatever reason. So instead of going back and picking up that needler, I decide that, you know, just forget it. It doesn't matter. I'm really close to these guys, and as I mentioned before, this is the best loadout. If you're having trouble with any section or any part, with any strat I'm talking about, or with any weapon I'm telling you to use, default to this loadout. And you know what? Very serendipitously, I was able to prove that here. I wasn't trying to, it just kind of happened. I didn't want to go back and get the needler, and so I just ended up sticking with this loadout here. It could be, you know, when I think about it now, I think one thing that I did, I kind of deviated a little bit. And I decided, I think, to go back and get that needler and take it into the next room, which is my least favorite room in the entirety of the mission. It's not the hardest; it's just my least favorite because of the prevalence of those ranged forms that really slow things down. So yeah, I think that's what I decided to do here. Ooh, a mauler. I'll tell you what, my favorite way to play this level is with the either on heroic or legendary with the black eye and tilt skulls on. The black eye skull allows your shields to recharge as you're killing Flood, and it makes the ranged forms even more annoying, but more of a challenge. And the tilt skull makes your melee attacks extremely powerful, but it makes the elite shields also very, very resistant to just about anything but plasma. So. And, you know, hard ping stuff like the Needler Explosion and grenade sticks. Literally my favorite grave mine moment. If I can possibly name a favorite grave mine moment, that I don't know what it is, I just like that line of dialogue. But basking in new freedom, I will know all that I possess! Alright, yes, I did go back and get that Needler, I guess. But I kind of lose track of the fact that this dude's here, and I don't know if he's shielded or not, so I just waste half or more of a clip there, and now we got these dudes coming down, so let's just light them up pretty fast. There are probably faster ways to get through this room than what you're going to see from me, using the equipment and cloaking and just a really, I guess, kind of, I don't know, I wouldn't say necessarily reckless, but, you know, kind of a less of a concern about dying. And I'm not talking about speedrunning ways. I'm talking about, you know, pure casual ways. It's probably faster. There's faster ways to get through this room. I just kind of ignore them. I think at some point, you know, I get tired of developing strats that are just as safe, if not less so, but, you know, could shave off a minute or two. Let's just play this normally. So I like to try to get in this little hallway section here. It's not as easy as it looks, but sometimes you can get these guys and either A, get them to come into that little hallway, or B, get them to come out to here. The preference would be, of course, that they come out to here. But either way, the more we can take care of, the less of these guys we have to deal with as we move through the latter parts of the room. And of course, this guy sets up right here. Is he still there? If he was still there, it'd be nice. Let's go ahead and get rid of this guy. Oh, he's got a shield. They tried to troll me. He's like, hey, look, easy kill, man. Come on out. And I slice him. It does nothing. And then a plasma rifle dude starts slapping the bolts at me. I don't even know if that's the way to say that. It isn't the way to say that at all. I just made that up, actually. Slapping the bolts at me. So I really don't want to waste... Now this is the crappy part. I mean, even in Halo 2, man, even in Halo 2, you could melee these guys fairly easily with the sword in hand. Fairly easily with the sword in hand. Not so easily with nothing else, but anyway. You even get red reticle. I don't understand. Why isn't there kind of a, I don't know, some kind of favoring towards, you know, being accurate there, but alright, let's just Hail Mary that like an idiot around infection forms. Out of impatience. And miss, I think. That's BS. Alright, this is actually what I wanted to see. Get some of these dudes coming over here. There we go. And for you... if you just had a little more range on that Needler red reticle. Just a little bit more. And I'm just spamming up here just to, I don't know, put some of these guys down. I'm kind of hoping that my release of infection forms, those days are over. Because again, if you put them down with the... by the way, pick up that plasma rifle. There's a fresh sword in the next area where we're going. Let's take this freebie. Nope, not a freebie. Not a freebie. Alright, come over here. At some point we're going to use the cloaking because there's cloaking that's nearby here. So we have a window where we can use it. I usually like to save it until this part because, I don't know, for habit. Let's get rid of that guy. He's tried to troll me twice now. And can we stick this dude? Yes, we can. Right in the crotch. Gotta love that. Dick stick, I believe is what that's called, by the more randy Halo community members. Or randier, more randier. Nothing over here, just checking to make sure, I think. Alright. Yeah, it's funny this level. You always feel surrounded, but you're not always overwhelmed. It's kind of a weird feeling. Yep. Back to get the plasma rifle because, again, fresh sword over there. No need for the carbine. Just checking to see if there was anything else right there. Yeah, for the most part, we're pretty good here. We've taken care of a lot of the pure forms, and so now we're just kind of biding our time. And I think at some point, there we go. I think at some point we're gonna, we'll just single wield plasma rifle this dude until he dies. Just kind of nice little burst there to keep a decently straight line on that fella. So I think I take the Needler, because there's other plasma rifles in the next area, and then just camo right here. We've got a lot of fire bombs here, so they will kind of try to get close to you here, so we'll just firebomb them, and we get a 2-for-1 here if I remember right. Very nice. Very, very nice. And then, of course, the 2 camo cloaking equipments there. That's why I could, freely use that just then. And as you can imagine, you could even use another one before you leave the room. You won't be coming back here, so there's no reason to save it. Now, there are enemies. There can be enemies where we just left, but I think I killed some of them. But this hallway here to the left, I don't think you can really get to these guys early very easily at all. So I'm going to draw them out, because I don't know how nasty these guys really are. Yep, he didn't... I couldn't tell if he had a shield or not, but I'm almost positive that guy does, so we take care of him. And then now we're going to leave this room. I think I end up leaving with the Needler and the Brute Shot. Oh man, I forgot about those sticky grenades right over there. So I didn't leave with the Brute Shot. It really doesn't matter. There's plenty of sword, and there's plenty of Brute Shot in the next section. So the Needler is the more important weapon to leave with, while there can be a good amount of Needler because of the elite combat forms carrying it. You don't want to count on that. And the Needler, again, same concept. That hard ping super combine does a really good job against ranged pure forms. Now, I think this room in this particular playthrough kind of gets a little nastier, excuse me, than it has to. I usually like to charge right on in and see if I can get any kills before I have to come back, because on Legendary they are Johnny on the spot when it comes to going into their ranged form mode, those pure forms. Alright, so we've got, I think, 2 of them here that are firing at us, so There's 2 cloaking equipments in this room, and I think I'm going to use one now, just so I don't sit here the whole time and wait for this crap to stop happening. So let's get a firebomb on that dude. I killed both of them. Another 2 for 1. Nice. Get that dude. Dodge that guy, or at least pretend like we're going to dodge him. And then we got one here that's about to try to sprout. No thank you. No, I think it's the way back out of here, which was kind of nasty. I think this actually goes pretty well. Yep, this goes pretty well. So oddly enough, sometimes you get, well, every time, you get a lot of these, I don't know what this dude's doing at all. You get a lot of these pure forms that are just standing there. I call it the dance. They're just doing the dance. They kind of seem to be moving to the music there, and I'm not really sure if their purpose is to just kind of be in the way or hang out or make it look more overwhelming than it is, but some of those guys, or all of the ones that are just saying they're dancing, aren't a threat to you at all. I like to go ahead and kill them anyway because I'm not 100% sure how they work. I'm not sure if maybe what happens is that if you kill enough, you can only have so many pure forms active and attacking you in some way, shape, or form. And so the more pure forms you kill, the more likely it is that those guys will kind of wake up from their dancing slumber and attack you. I'm not really sure how they work, but I think on some level it was probably a true glitch in the sense that I don't know, it was probably too many enemies on screen. But if maybe the developers did intend for it to appear like there were more than there actually were, in terms of more threats than there actually were. But anyway, I'm babbling. I'm probably going to edit all that babble out. Alright, so let's go and rescue Cortana. Cortana, as I like to... No, I don't call her that at all. Alright, so since I've been doing this the whole time, I'm going to do it now and skip that cutscene. But just so you know, that cutscene makes this whole level worth it. It's one of my favorite in the entirety of the franchise. I absolutely love it. I love the callbacks to various dialogue and moments in the previous campaigns and in the extended universe. So anyway, can draw a tear to these otherwise bone-dry video gaming eyes. So as we go through the Cortana / Grave Mine moments and rescue her, it's time for us to jet out of here. This part can be pretty brutal. As you can see right then and there, I get, hit with ranged forms from 2 different sides and almost brute shot, which is not a guarantee. That's just bad RNG, but fortunately we don't die from it. See him right over... He's right over there somewhere. So you have to be, needless to say, as a result of this, you just need to be very careful how you proceed here. Though I'd say the other enemy that I see here a lot that's really troubling is an elite with super shields with a needler. I've seen that multiple times, and that can be pretty difficult to deal with as well. So, yeah, don't even aim it at me and fire it. Yeah, that's... It was aimed downward, and it somehow fired at me, so that was great. I wasn't... Here's a super shield, dude, and with a sword to boot, but that's why we brought the needler with us, ladies and gents. Those won't track because they have to take a very unusual path to... An unusual path in the sense that it has to take it for some reason. For some reason, those needlers lose their tracking ability there, but no worries, I guess. Alright, so... Oh, are you really going to do this? Nice. That's right where I wanted you to be. That was perfect. Oh my god, come on. He's probably harmless, but I don't know that for sure, so I go ahead and stick him anyway. Like I say, this one's harmless, but I don't know if it could become not harmless. It's like playing multiplayer with all that jumping. He just kept jumping. It's funny. Glad he went down fast. Alright, so what are we going to do here? Do we even go and pick up that dude's needler? There's a needler right there! I missed it. I just flat out missed it. In my defense, it did seem obscured. I think I caught it in the corner of my eye just now. Yeah, just in case. I don't know. Just in case you make your way out of that little conundrum you got yourself into. So this is another part that I usually decide, you know, that it's just not worth waiting for the right opportunity, since it won't track from here. Although it does go into its little hidey mode there, but yeah, I just decide to use cloaking here most all the time. I'm not sure what I'm waiting for here. I might try to knock it down, at least knock it down maybe. And there's, I probably know this, or maybe you don't, but there's a bubble shield that's really close to me as well. You can use that for protection if you need it. You get kind of in a bad spot here. Yeah, cloaking. No. Yes, cloaking. Would almost get mauled while cloaked, but oh well. There was a guttural growl from that flood that I just sliced. Alright, so I think that's everybody that was living, if that's a word I can even use here. So let's get us some brute shot ammunition. We're going to go back over and pick up the cloaking. I just don't want to... I throw that over the edge because I don't want to accidentally run over the cloaking equipment and think I just picked it up. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that thing there. There's probably a good use for it. There probably is a good use for it. I don't care. So expose these reactor pylons whenever you're comfortable. I usually like to wait until all the pure and combat forms are taken care of before I start doing this. I mean, you could do it earlier, I just don't think it's a good idea. So we pick up the other cloaking right there, and we've got a brute shot that's full, we've got a full sword, we've got full grenades, at least the ones that matter in this level. And so we're doing pretty darn good here. Looking pretty good for the final run. Where's the other one? Oh, yep, we got them all. So this explosion can knock you off, I think, or hurt you. I've had it happen before, so this is where I like to stand. Never been knocked off there. So instead of going with the brute shot, which is useless against the combat forms that have shields or armor or whatever stuff that some of these dudes have, I go with the dual-wielding plasma rifle loadout. Like I said, when in doubt, this is the loadout to go with. Now, this is the only part here where I just refuse to fight. And so I cloak past these guys, and the reason why is because the game does not give you the firepower to deal with them. It just simply doesn't. If I could take that gravity hammer, leave it right here, and it still be here, then I would take that group on, no questions asked. But since you cannot do that, I've tried it many times, you cannot leave that gravity hammer there. After you leave this room, a lot of this stuff resets. Not all of it, just a lot of it resets. So even if you pick up the gravity hammer, as I obviously did, I think it had 5 charge left in it, just to prove. I did do that on purpose to prove that. It does not stay there. Now, if it was there, I'd be okay with it, but since I cannot leave it there, since that strategy fails because of a development decision, an engine limitation, if you will, whatever it might be, then I just refuse to fight those guys. You just don't have the firepower for it, and if you're going for Deathless, it's best just to leave them alone. If you're trying to have fun, Tilt Black Eye style, they're actually not that hard. But anyway, so break up bodies just in case any infection forms get released into this room. Notice what I'm doing here with this really gnarly group, if it's not obvious already. So you got that group, that wave, and then you will have another wave come through in a little bit. So there is a case that that's the Needler case. I think I do alternate sometimes. There's also a plasma rifle case behind over there as well. Just be sure, make sure you leave it there. Like, you know, the first time you're in this room, don't mess with it. Just let it be, because it'll be a great place It'll be a great resource to you, especially if you used up the needler there, or you find yourself struggling with an elite that has super shields. Those dual-wielding plasma rifles are just gnarly. Whereas this weapon, they'll dodge like they're still sentient. It's not like fighting the Flood anymore. Whenever they, their self-preservation seems more important than attacking you. It's not Flood anymore. Then it's just a regular old enemy with, much more pedestrian or much more typical AI. But anyway, here's the case. Again, when in doubt, go with this loadout here, and it'll do you wonders. Alright, so right here we get one more pure form before we leave this area. As long as you have the sword with you, you should have no problem at all. But even if you didn't, you can wear them down with these plasma rifles and probably use up about 15 to 20% of their charge. You know what? I totally forgot to mention this in this level, but I did mention it in the Covenant if you watched that video. If you want to keep these things quote-unquote going and going, just alternate triggers back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. If you get into a lot of trouble, though, or you get a really nasty elite that's just bearing down on you, then you just can kind of full auto both of them, and risk the overheat. But to keep them kind of going and going and going, just I alternate, and then sometimes squeeze them together, alternate. It's it's gut feeling as to whether or not I'm doing one or the other. And of course, don't shoot them when you don't have to be shooting them. Notice what happened there. That Flood infection form decided that I had beat that body up enough. It ran into something, killed itself, and then popped back out to try to infect something else. Holy crap. That was a terrible miss. Ugh. That was terrible. That was totally me. I mean, it's just so much easier to throw grenades in the previous two Halos, but for some reason there, I guess I should have led him properly. I don't know, I can't throw those spike grenades for the life of me, so anyway, that's half the problem. I'd rather just have four plasmas and 4 frags. Not that those fire bombs aren't useful, but anyway. So let's just keep on trucking. Be careful for shotgun Flood, nasty sword Flood. This is the part where they kind of get a little more trolly than overwhelming. Kind of hiding out, lying in wait, so on and so forth. Get down, dude. These guys weren't too bad. I thought there was a dead body there. Another case here. I don't know if you saw it on the way in, but there's a reason why I didn't touch it. Well, the weapons I have are the ones I wanted. Look at that guy. He had a shotgun. But, make sure and leave at least 2 in that case. If you plan on leaving here with plasma rifles from there, just leave here with only, 2 of them. Don't take all 4. And they'll be here waiting for you just about the time you might want to replenish them. Maybe a little excessive, though. I think those other ones, I think they still had some life left in them. Notice how here I'm not even switching to the sword. They're that powerful. They're that effective against the pure forms, especially when you're that close to them. That pure form dropped 2 spike grenades, I think. So I don't want to leave the Arbiter behind here. Yeah, we could race to the finish. Probably not even feel too bad about it, but... Is the Arbiter gonna come on with us? Dude, there's just a couple of them left. Let's go. Okay, so I kind of left him behind, but... Yeah, there he comes. See? I promise you I'd have went back. I promise you. If he wasn't already heading toward us, I would have went back. Alright, guys, that's Cortana. 8th level. No, I don't hate this level. I love the fact that for the most part, especially on the lower difficulties, especially if you turn on the Black Eye and Tilt Skull, this can be a really fun level to play. You got a lot of the sandbox available to you. Yeah, there's a lot of Trolley Flood, and those freaking infection. Those freaking range forms are nightmares. They completely ruin the gameplay of this level in certain sections. But for the most part, no, I don't hate Cortana. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. Anyway, well, I guess that's it for today. Please hit that thumbs up button if you enjoyed this content. And of course, if you haven't already, subscribe and hit that notifications bell. That second one is really important because what it will allow you to do is find out at just the precise time Oh, at least I think it's kind of precise, but it'll let you know whenever a video is being released, when it's fresh off the assembly line and hot off the presses. Please use the comment section to express your hatred, frustration, love, adoration, whatever it might be for this level. As for now, however, this is JP3 signing out. Have a wonderful, wonderful day, guys, and thank you very, 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 very much for watching. Goodbye.